Welcome to episode 37 of the Hodgepodge podcast. I'm your host, Doug.
And I'm Dirty A. As the name suggests, we're going to talk about a hodgepodge of topics anywhere from movies, music, TV, and other pop culture events.
And on this episode, we'll be discussing several movies, including Godzilla, and an early review of Seth McFarlane's A Million Ways to Die in the West. You can reach us at thehodgepodgepodcast@gmail.com, or over on our website, thehodgepodgepodcast.com, or on iTunes. Go ahead and search for the Hodgepodge Podcast and subscribe. And for regular listeners, you'll notice that I didn't include my review blog on there. Not because it's gone, but because I had a little snafu with Google about my summer movie preview. Warner
Too
Brothers.
many porn images?
Yes, too much porn. Warner Brothers apparently claimed that I had something on there that they didn't like, and I don't know what it could have been. It could have only been a poster. I think it might have been Jupiter Ascending, because it looked like I had like a rare poster on there that probably wasn't supposed to be on there.
You said that was the one you were suspect of.
The problem is,
assholes.
Yeah, the problem is Google tells you, they don't tell you what you have to remove. They say you have to go to this third party, and then you'll find the whole complaint there. And I searched it for like almost 2 weeks, couldn't find anything. So I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start posting my reviews on the Hodgepodge podcast. And my archives are still at dougreviews.blogspot.com if you want to go read those. But, yeah. So I was kind of pissed.
Welcome home, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I decided to consolidate.
Same great reviews, different site.
Yeah, different channel. Thanks. So we saw several movies this last couple weeks, I guess.
Yeah, we've been
because we got tied up with Spider-Man, and then we had our listen to this episode.
It took us a while to recover from Spider-Man.
Yeah. Took a crap 5 times yesterday. I'm still recovering. So anyway, so we're getting back on track, and we've seen a bunch of indie movies lately, free screenings, and the New York Film Critics series that they have here now. And so we're going to be discussing a few of those. In a later episode, we'll be discussing probably more of the indie movies we've been checking out lately. But the big one that we'll lead off with, we saw Godzilla.
Yeah, much anticipated Godzilla.
And to paraphrase Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum's character from Jurassic Park, now you are going to have Godzilla in your Godzilla movie, yes?
It's a fact. I mean, that's right on point. Unfortunately, for me, it's like I need to give this movie 2 different ratings.
Right.
I'm going to rate the monsters and the fighting, and then you rate the movie as a whole. And I wish I could lump them together, but unfortunately, the monsters and the fighting are fucking phenomenal.
He looks great. Godzilla looks amazing.
Geektastic. I mean, just full on monsters, and well done. And, and we saw it in 2D.
Yeah, we didn't go see it in 3D.
But I heard the 3D is actually really good. I will not go back and check it out. This is what I hear. So it's done really well, and I mean, we were all cheering, and when the fights came out, it was good stuff. But the problem is, this movie is over 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's just over 2 hours. Yeah,
it's just over 2 hours. We get, and I'm being liberal with this estimate, maybe 20 minutes of the monsters and monster fighting.
Yeah, I mean, the director on this is Gareth Edwards. He directed Monsters, which was an indie film where he did. I understand he did a lot of this hiding them and stuff like that.
The Cloverfield effect, right?
And the writers on the project were screenwriter Max Borenstein and a guy named Dave Callahan wrote the story. And I have this feeling that they were really trying to go for this Jaws approach on it. And, I mean, right down to the fact that the main family's last name is Brody. I mean, come on. So they were clearly going for a Jaws effect here, where they tease Godzilla a lot, and you don't really get to see him. The problem is, when Spielberg did it, masterfully, I should say, in Jaws.
Oh, yeah, one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, I mean, when he did it, you actually got to see the shark's actions, even though you didn't see the shark.
Right.
So you saw the person go under the water. You saw the blood. You saw, you knew what was going on. In this movie, Godzilla shows up, and then he starts to fight these other monsters, and then they cut away. They cut away, and that's not the same thing as, dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. It's not the same thing.
It's not building to suspense. because you know it's there,
right?
You know, and
right.
you know what's happening,
right?
Even though you can't see it,
exactly,
and it just doesn't work. And the other thing is that looking back on Jaws, a movie like Jaws, it's hard to think when it was original.
Right.
You know, it wasn't a phenomenon, right? It wasn't Jaws. It was just a movie,
right?
That could do
based right. on the novel.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
right.
as a movie, it could do that.
Right.
Godzilla is everyone knows Godzilla. Godzilla is folklore.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
We all know what it's about.
Right.
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 You don't tease something you already know what it's about when people are going to the movie for a very specific reason.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's not like another Spielberg movie, E.T., where, you know, which I guess, honestly, not to really spoil anything for Godzilla, but would kind of be closer, considering Godzilla, the way he behaves in this movie. You know, they did the same thing. They tease E.T., until finally he comes into the house with Elliot. Not that Godzilla walks into anybody's house.
big fucking house.
Big fucking house. I was reminded, so when they cut away from the fights and everything, it reminded me a lot of Transformers, the first Transformers movie, where off screen you've got Prime and Megatron having their climactic fight, and the camera's focused on fucking Shia LaBeouf and the stupid cube.
And you're just fucking frustrated.
Yeah,
going, hey,
and who gives a crap about the stupid kid? And that applies to Godzilla as well. Yeah. You've got Aaron Taylor Johnson as the main character. The story really focuses on him and how he magically has the greatest luck in the universe. He's a EOD specialist for the military. His father's played
apparently the only one.
Yeah, apparently. His father's played by Bryan Cranston. And they set up a prologue, and the prologue was really good.
Yeah, that opening 10 minutes
is really good.
It set up some tense stuff.
Yeah, and basically there was a tragedy. They were living in Japan. His father and his mother, who's played by Juliette Binoche, they were working at a nuclear power plant. There was an incident there. The mother dies. I'm not really giving that away because that's in the trailer pretty much. She dies. Then it cuts to 15 years later. The father has always suspected there was something fishy about what happened because there was an earthquake.
Right. It's chalked up to just a nuclear reactor issue.
Right.
Meltdown at the plant.
Right.
But Cranston doesn't buy that because he had been researching stuff.
Right.
And so he's kind of almost become obsessed madman over this issue.
Totally.
And so
he goes back to Japan. He gets into some legal trouble. And the son, who just got back from his tour of duty,
calls in the son to go get him.
He has to go get his father, leaving his hot wife, played by Elizabeth Olsen, which, I got to be honest, their relationship was kind of creepy, knowing that they're going to play brother and sister in Avengers 2.
Right?
But anyway, so he leaves her to go find the father, and then something else happens in Japan, and he's kind of stranded, and he has to find his way home while these monsters are going across towards California.
You're making this sound way more interesting.
Thank you. And what happens is that the whole way he gets back is merely by coincidence.
Right.
You know, he's like, how am I going to get home? Oh, it's a military plane.
Yeah.
Oh, I can go home with them.
And by the military just being the nicest people in the world that'll just let him hitch a ride.
Right.
With a disaster of this proportion going on.
Right.
The military is going to be super tight. And I don't care if you're in the military. If they don't know who you are in that particular platoon or regiment or whatever you want to call their core team there, they'll tell you to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
But they're telling this guy, like, where they're going to drop he's like, hey, so where are you going to drop this bomb? They're like, oh, well, we're going to...
Right.
Come on. And going back, you know, I say that, you know, the fighting is why people come to see this movie, and that's very true. However, if the story were tight and a very focused, good story, I'll be happy to forgive a 2-hour movie for only showing, 20 minutes of fighting.
They also run into Ken Watanabe, who's a doctor.
He's also one of the original people who was at that meltdown.
Right. Yeah. And he's been studying the situation and stuff like that. Although he's never seen Godzilla in his life, apparently he's an expert now.
Yeah.
It's not like dinosaurs either. Like we're dinosaurs, you can find the fossils and figure stuff out and stuff like that. No, he just knows about this guy, and he knows how Godzilla's going to behave. Godzilla. So
it was fun. Did you notice that it was funny though because he spoke perfect English in a perfect English accent, except when he said Godzilla because they just wanted him to say it in a very tight Japanese like accent.
Well, he is an accent anyway. I mean, he's...
Well, I know, but, I mean, everything was very enunciated in English, except when he'd say, Godzilla.
So basically, what happens is you're stuck with this guy, trying to get home, and that story's just boring, and it's really predictable, too. It's really predictable and boring, and you're just waiting for Godzilla to show up. You're sitting there. It's not so much anticipation as that you're like, Godzilla, please come make this movie interesting. Please make this movie interesting. And when Godzilla does show up, then they barely even show you him, and it's just like, come on. Yeah. It's not like even the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. We keep on citing all these Spielberg movies, but it's not even the T-Rex. Like, they tease the T-Rex, like when he clings onto the fence, but when the T-Rex shows up, he's there. Yeah, he's fucking there, and they don't
cut away from that shit to show the kids. Doing something else.
Playing thumb wrestling. So it was really just frustrating watching this movie because yes, you want I think if they had cut Aaron Taylor Johnson's whole story out and just kept it about tracking the monsters and all that stuff, and then not having him be like, this is what I think he's going to do, then he does it. They should be unpredictable,
as he says in the movie. Let them fight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the director should have done. Just let them fight.
Yeah,
you don't need to tell a complicated story.
No, and the other problem is that in a post Pacific Rim world, you can't do that cutaway crap from the fighting because you can just go watch Pacific Rim and then watch monsters fight robots, which is even cooler.
Much better movie of the same style.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, it was just a really weak script.
And again, not to take away the masterfully done parts where the monsters are on screen.
Oh yeah, totally.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, the fights at the end. You basically just really need to show up for the first 15 minutes and then the last 20 minutes. Yeah. And the fights at the end are great. I mean, they're really good. They're brutal. It was a little bit of a Pacific Rim effect because it was really, really dark on the screen. And
that's a good point.
You can't really tell what's going on sometimes.
Couldn't quite get the feel of what exactly is happening.
Right.
In some instances, because it's extremely dark. And that was by design, obviously. But, and it does work to a point, but they definitely could have thrown some more lights in there, whether they be fluorescent, skylights or whatever. But, but you're right. Like nothing else in this movie works, and everything else is stuff is thrown out there that's not set up, like you mentioned. Right. Watanabe's character not really understanding the monsters yet. Somehow fully understanding that Godzilla is a quote unquote the good monster that's gonna save them.
Well, way to spoil the twist.
Look, it's not a twist. It's not a twist. The first thing you see is the other monsters. I don't consider that a twist.
I guess. I mean, but the thing is that like Matt, I was talking to him about it. He's like, I wanted him so bad at the end to turn around and like fry that stadium that they were on. It's like, thank God those assholes are out of the way now. Now let me destroy this city like I was planning to do in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess you could call that a twist, but I guess because you didn't know that nothing else was there. But
well, because the way they kind of presented it in the trailers was that Godzilla was going to come and invade and do all this stuff.
I guess, but if you've seen other Godzilla movies,
that's true.
Other than the first one, it's certainly plausible.
And Godzilla was also a little too like I turned to our friend in the middle of it and I quoted Superman from Superman 2. When all the people are on the bridge, and then Godzilla comes up and they start shooting at Godzilla. Godzilla go, "No, the people!"
He's like aware. He's aware.
He's like aware
of people.
And that didn't work for me because he's a prehistoric monster.
He doesn't have a rational thinking mind.
Let's put it this way.
Maybe he does.
Or maybe he does. I was half expecting him to turn around and wave to the people as he left at the end.
That's what I said. I said, he needs to wave. Or wink. Get a wink. Wink. But that part of it felt very forced and not that would just kind of took me out of it a little bit. But yes, apologize if that spoiled for anybody, but I don't consider that a major spoiler.
There's one other twist in the very beginning that I won't spoil, but really it's true. I mean, because Aaron Taylor Johnson's his storyline unfolds pretty predictably. and he never takes control of what happens to him until the very end of the movie, and even then
he just wants to kick ass.
Oh my god! Let's just say, but as I mean, Cranston does a good job with what they give him. Elizabeth Olsen's good with what they give her, but Taylor Johnson, he's just like I'm glad in Avengers he's going to be part of an ensemble because
he's just stoic on the screen.
I know he was just like
a flat character.
Yeah, he just didn't. I mean, he didn't emote at all. It's just like, are you a robot?
Yeah. And they just
did Godzilla send you here?
There's scenes thrown in there for no reason whatsoever. Like when there's a scene where he saves a boy.
Yes.
Serves no real purpose.
No.
You don't get anything out of that.
It shows he's G.I. Joe.
I mean, yeah, you see that he's compassionate and he's a father. Okay, we already know that. It's already been set up. That's already been set up.
Right.
It served no real purpose.
Right.
But they did that. It's a 2-hour movie. They obviously put in a lot of fluff in here.
Yeah, they did. They really did.
Again, like I said, if this movie had been an hour and 20 minutes, I could forgive it a lot more for the missing monsters. If you like Godzilla, you're going to check it out anyway.
Right.
And if you're a super hardcore fan, you probably won't be disappointed because from what I'm seeing, a lot of people are forgiving this story.
Yeah.
Save the monsters.
Yeah, that's true.
And part of me can understand that, but part of me is like,
I was bored.
Yeah, you spend 2 hours to see 20 minutes.
Yeah. So they tried to pull a Jaws and they failed because the characters are nowhere near as interesting as the human characters were in Jaws.
Yeah. Plus, it's the franchise that's already set up.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
You can't recreate Jaws, especially not with something that's that's already.
Probably Cloverfield might have been the closest thing.
Exactly.
It was something he didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Godzilla.
Yeah.
It's mediocre at best, but the last 20 minutes really good.
Yeah.
Especially when he waves to the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, people are critics alike are giving it much better reviews than I can give it. Even though I want to, I want to give it a thumbs up just because the creativity and I hate for those effects people to shit on, but can't do it.
Yeah,
director missed the mark on this one.
Yeah, X-Men, you're our only hope.
That's right. One big one left.
Well, for me.
Well, all right, so that's Godzilla.
Yep.
I guess we want to talk about some of these indie movies we've been checking out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about one we saw. It was a while ago now, but it's just opened in theaters relatively recently. We caught it slightly early.
Right.
But it's Tom Hardy's new movie Locke.
Yes.
And this is
and when you say it's Tom Hardy's movie, it's Tom Hardy's movie.
Yeah, he's literally the only guy on the screen the entire movie. It is his vehicle.
Oh my god!
See what I did there?
Because
he's in a car the whole time. Yeah. So this movie, I knew nothing about this movie going in. I had my assumption was way different. Than what this movie was though.
Yeah. You were way off.
I went in this movie thinking like psychological thriller.
No,
it is not at all that, folks. That being said, it's not bad. I think you liked it quite a bit. Actually.
I loved it,
and it's a character drama.
Oh yeah,
about this event that's taking place in this guy's life,
right?
And how he's dealing with it on this 3-hour car drive.
I forget how many hours it was.
Like that.
It seemed like it was more than that because I mean, it does. It's not in real time. It goes.
Correct. He's dealing with this big life event while he's in a car driving to. I don't know what we give away or don't in this.
He's driving to London. We don't.
Because the problem is, you talk about the plot in this movie, you
kind of unravel.
Yeah.
Basically, Tom Hardy's character, Ivan Locke, he is a guy who always does the right thing, no matter what.
Yeah.
He's very meticulous, detail-oriented. He's very good at his job. He's a construction foreman, basically.
And to his core, he's a problem solver.
Yes.
He's the type of guy who thinks every problem has a solution.
Mm-hmm. Right. And he's a family man, and he's very, very committed to his job. And in the interest of him doing the right thing, once again, he threatens to blow up everything.
Right.
His job, his life, everything. And like we said, we don't want to give it away, but
by the way, he doesn't always do the right thing.
No, apparently not. But what happens is it does take place just in this one car with him, and all the character stuff comes through in conversations he has on the phone with other actors. Right. You never see those actors; you only hear their voices. Yeah. So a great job by the rest of the cast having to act only with their voices.
That's good. That's a good point. Yeah.
And it's the film's done by Stephen Knight. He wrote and directed, and I thought it was phenomenal because it takes everyday human drama and it made it very tense. It wasn't like a thriller but there's a lot of tension in this movie because you don't know what's going to happen to his family life with his job. He really screwed the pooch.
But particularly the way he chooses to play that tension.
Right.
Whether it's his choice as an actor, probably more a director writer choice, but that he plays his tension very soft.
Yeah. Yes, he's very calm. He has moments where he does where he loses his cool,
but only for brief bit. Right. And then he's just like, oh,
he's very in control.
Yeah.
He's Tom Hardy does a fantastic job here. You can see like I think he said he adopted a Welsh accent for this, and you can see hints of Bane in there. And so like after the movie, we were like, "Yes, I'm driving on the road. I'll be there soon. I'll see you soon." But he does a phenomenal job in this movie.
Yeah. So the setup is on the eve of he's in construction,
right?
So on the eve of like his company's biggest monumental construction deal yet, he has to leave.
Yeah, he has to leave town. He has to go to London.
He's the foreman, if you will.
Yeah.
But kind of a constructional engineer type of foreman.
Right.
And he has to leave town, which obviously is not going to make the bosses too happy.
Right.
And so he's having to deal with that along with family issues.
Right. He has a lot of family issues going on, and at the same time, he's trying to make sure that this job goes off without a hitch.
Right.
And he's trying to coach this other guy through it, Donald, who's played by Andrew Scott. He's great.
Does a great job. Yeah. Very funny.
And it's just very. It was just very interesting. It was a very unique movie.
It is very unique. This movie is not going to be for everybody.
No, it is definitely not for everybody.
This is not your mass-marketed movie.
If you want to watch this, I suggest you wait till it comes on Netflix or video on demand or something like that, and check it out at home because it's very. We saw it at through the New York Film Critics series, and we thought it was because it was going to be coming out where we live, like later in the summer,
like into July,
and it's in the goddamn theater this weekend. So and we only saw it like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, because we had to pay kind of a premium to see it,
which pissed us off. So anyway, but it's a great movie. I liked it a lot. I just thought it was fantastic how it made these what seemingly might be trivial problems that this guy's having and made it like the biggest, like the most important
trivial,
not trivial, but very not trivial, but very.
He almost plays it like it's trivial. Is the thing.
Yeah,
but I definitely appreciated this movie a lot and what was done here. I think I'll need to see it again because of my expectations.
Right,
I was let down a little bit just because the tone of it was so different from what I was
if you're
built up for.
Yeah, if you're expecting like a ransom type movie or something like that.
And you know what? That's the kind of trouble I get into sometimes because movies like this I like to go in cold,
right,
and not know anything about them, and sometimes that works out in my own detriment,
right.
But because I looked at you, I was like, I thought this was about like a thriller, and you're like, no. I was like, okay. I mean, halfway through the movie, I'm still waiting for something else to go down. I'm like,
somebody to call and be like, I have your family.
I have your family.
And it's him playing Bane on the other line.
I have Batman. But don't get me wrong in saying that. It is still a wonderful piece of cinema.
Yeah,
it's
really
appreciated.
Good.
I mean, Hardy really acted his ass off here.
He did, and it was funny because like they with the Film Critics series they have. interviews afterwards, and they were asking him to like, oh, so why did you play it like you had a cold? He's like, because I had a cold.
Actually had a cold. That is
like,
funny. That was they just kept
they
that
just wrote it right in the
there because
right.
it was and it, it didn't mean anything. It just hey, it was a day in his life. He happened to have a cold that day.
Yeah.
He actually says that.
Yeah.
I got a cold. What do you want? But it's funny. Before this movie, I would have never thought Tom Hardy would. I would never see him as the guy that could pull something like this off. But he does it quite well.
No, I could see him doing something like this. He was great in Inception, and
I don't get me wrong. I'm not.
He was actually one of my favorite parts of Inception.
I'm not saying I didn't think he was a great actor.
Right.
But, it takes a lot to pull off a one-man show.
Oh yeah. You expect somebody like Tom Hanks or something like that to do it. We can stick with the New York Film Critics series slate of movies because literally the week after we saw Locke, we saw our next movie, which was one that I was really looking forward to after I saw the trailer finally, and that was Jon Favreau's new film Chef.
Yeah.
And this film is hilarious.
It's
really, really funny. It's also a very sweet movie. It's a very.
It's not your laugh out loud comedy per se.
Oh, I thought it was. I mean, it's not like
I laughed out loud. I'm saying it's not. It's very
smart.
Not your typical comedy.
Right. It's a very smart comedy. It's very much the wordplay and everything like that. It's not like a lot of slapstick or anything like that. It's a very sweet, heartwarming movie because ultimately it's about this guy Carl Casper. Who's a chef. He's played by Jon Favreau, who wrote and directed it as well. And it's basically ultimately about him reconnecting with his son and his family.
And himself. What he should be doing.
Right.
Movies like this can get lost in translation a lot. But it's, this is very, like you mentioned, very smart movie. And you mentioned he wrote and directed this. So this is actually him getting back to his roots.
That's kind of like the metaphor I saw with it because I mean he's been doing stuff like Iron Man and he did Cowboys and Aliens and he's a producer on Avengers. He's involved in all these big blockbusters. He's actually going to do another blockbuster I think after this. I think he's doing Jungle Book or something like that. I think.
Yeah.
So I felt like this movie was a real good metaphor for his career because getting back to the indie movies that
Swingers and
Made the movies that he started out with.
Yeah, Swingers is one of my favorite comedies.
I always thought he directed Swingers, and he didn't. He wrote it.
Right, he wrote
it, but he was in it, but he didn't direct it.
Yeah.
Basically, what the story is that he plays like this celebrity chef who works at a restaurant. He's been working there for about like 10 or 12 years, and he's kind of gotten into a creative rut.
Right. And
on the night that a big critic is going to show up, who we won't spoil that person's identity. But but the night a big critic is going to come and review the restaurant, he decides he wants to change it up and do something a little bit different. His boss, played by Dustin Hoffman, says, "No, you're going to do the menu that I approve and that we've been doing forever." And then, predictably, he gets a horrible review from this critic, who was one of his early champions.
Right. So he's almost been this. It's almost come full circle because he's been writing this critic's review almost the span of his career, how wonderful he was, right? And that's not to say he's not talented. It's obvious from the get go he's got talent,
right?
But he's been almost coasting,
right?
Exactly, and almost afraid to go out on his own or do anything for himself.
His ex-wife is played by Sofia Vergara, who is great in this.
Tits McGee.
Yes, she plays a very different role from her character on Modern Family, from Gloria.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But although I did have little complaints with the movie that we'll get to, part of her role is one of the complaints I had. It's a great cast. I mean, Jon Favreau clearly called in all his favors on this one. He has Scarlett Johansson's in it. Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. has a great
that is
cameo in it.
Wonderful cameo, which was entirely ad libbed.
Yeah, for the most part, because Robert Downey Jr. doesn't have to read it.
They set up a basic guideline of, or Favreau set up a general guideline of what had to happen in the scene, and then Robert Downey Jr. took it from there.
Right.
Which is, I guess, kind of how he does everything.
Pretty much, yeah. Watch Iron Man 3. So, as you said, John Leguizamo's in it. He plays a major part in it. Bobby Cannavale is in it. Just a great cast.
And the one we'll leave out,
Yes.
Fucking awesome.
Yes, he's great.
Love him.
And the other the kid is played Jon Favreau's kid in the movie is played by MJ Anthony. He did a good job. I thought he was good.
Yeah, it was solid.
He was his reactions were very natural for a kid. Nothing was really stilted or wooden or anything like that. He wasn't Mannequin Skywalker. We'll put it that way.
That's right.
And the other thing that plays a huge role in this movie is Twitter. And
that's a character unto itself.
Yeah, it is. And it's I think we kind of disagreed a little bit on how they use the Twitter in the movie.
You might have kind of misinterpreted what I said.
Oh.
I was okay with what they do in the movie is to demonstrate the buzz that
when something's trending, when he starts trending,
it shows the actual Twitter feed in the background. I was okay with that.
Right.
What I didn't like was just the little birdies flying out everywhere. I was okay showing the actual tweet. That was fine with me.
Right.
That played well. It was the scenes where randomly you'd see the bus go and it hits a little bird and he flies.
Yeah.
Like fucking Uncle Remus and shit. I got a bluebird on my shoulder.
Yeah. I thought that was cute. And the other thing that I liked about it is that I thought it really demonstrated well for audiences who don't know what Twitter is. I mean, because this movie's probably gonna get this movie's probably gonna get a lot of older crowd who doesn't know what the hell it is. What the hell's Twitter? You know, so it doesn't.
Yeah, only now they're gonna think it's little birdies in the sky.
Exactly. So basically, what happens is he gets into a Twitter war because he doesn't understand Twitter.
Yeah, he's like you mentioned. He's one of those. He didn't have an account, has no idea what it is.
His kid sets him up with an account. Right. And then he gets into a Twitter war with the critic, and then eventually he gets fired from his job. And his ex-wife has told him countless times that she thinks that he should go into business for himself and get a food truck.
Right.
And basically,
it gets to the point where he's almost forced to do that.
And then he's basically forced to do it, and he does it, and it takes off from there.
Or does it?
Because
that's one of the things we agree with on where this movie goes, right?
Right. So it's a very, very funny movie. It's, like I said, it's very sweet. I like the story a lot. I like the characters.
Yeah.
A lot of it also comes. A lot of the appeal of this movie comes from the interplay between the actors and all their scenes. The problem I had with the movie, it's loosely based on this real guy's life. I forget the guy's name.
Cho?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a guy who did...
someone in L.A. Or out in California somewhere who it's the person who basically started the food truck craze.
Right.
Like he was at the ground floor of the food truck craze. Yeah.
And so it's kind of sort of based on his life a little bit.
And he shows up in the end in like a...
He does, yeah.
Cutscene kind of the end where he's teaching the guy how to...
Right, yeah. There's a lot of food porn in this. A lot of food porn.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's a movie about a chef. The problem I had with the movie, the main problem I had with the movie, is that basically once Jon Favreau gets the truck, all the conflict kind of dries up. And it's basically it just coasts all the way to the end as you watch him have no real problems after that. And
they don't even. It's not even a question of will he succeed. It's like the truck is immediately successful.
Right.
Like there's no
because he was famous to begin with.
Right.
And because what happened? Yeah, there's something that happens that goes viral on the internet, and so then he becomes even more famous than he was before. Right. So that was something I took issue with. Not that you want to have an extended period where things are going good for the character and then you're coasting into the end. It's just that it went on a little bit too long. He could have cut about 15, 20 minutes out of this movie and it would have been fine.
I agree, yeah.
But that being said, it's still funny and it's still good.
Yeah, for the most part, it's still a tight movie for, I think it's right around 2 hours. Right?
I think it was, yeah. The one complaint I had about Sofia Vergara's character is that we're never really told what she does.
No, we know she's very well off.
She's very well off. She's very well off, I think, also from Robert Downey Jr. because he was also an ex of hers.
Yeah.
But she also has business ventures in other cities. Some of that.
Oh, yeah.
She has a publicist who's played by Amy Sedaris, who's really good in her roles. But we're never really told what she does, so that was kind of weird.
I was okay with that. I mean, the story wasn't. She wasn't the focus. It wasn't necessary to know what she did. It just people are rich. Some people are rich.
True. And the other problem I had with it was that I never really got a feeling of desperation
No.
from Favreau's character. So it's, I really wanted to see a little bit more, this has got to work for me or I'm fucked. And I never got that feeling at all. Because his relationship is so great with Sofia Vergara that I almost felt like she'd be like, yeah, stay in the guest house, you're fine.
He knew he always had that as a background.
Right. He always...
I mean, there were definite scenes when he was talking, and he actually did finally open up to Johansson at one point.
Yeah.
It was like, everything's dried up on me.
Right.
But even in that scene, you don't fully feel the effect of this master chef that's sunk down to nothing.
It's a very light and breezy movie in that way, and that's fine.
And that's probably that could easily be his choice.
Yeah,
that might not be a mistake on his part.
Right,
it's a conscious decision.
It's just that as a moviegoer, I like to see a little bit more conflict, to see to have more of a story, I guess you say. Yeah. But in the end, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, me too.
It's really great.
I enjoyed it more than I thought it was.
Yeah,
a movie like this, you feel like it could go either way.
Right.
My biggest problem with the movie was the dynamic between Favreau and Leguizamo.
Yeah, I mean,
because Leguizamo is working with him in the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
When he has to leave the restaurant, Leguizamo gets promoted.
Right.
But then inexplicably chooses to go work with him on a food truck.
Right.
Just because they're friends. But
right.
That's all good, but
I'm sorry, a little unrealistic.
Unrealistic.
Yeah.
You're not going to choose to give up it's basically his dream job. He's become a sous chef.
Right.
To go work on a food truck. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
No matter how good friends you might be with someone.
Right. But it's also because he knew he was such a good chef. And,
sure, but still.
But no, you're right.
I'd wait for him to land on his feet and say, give me a call when you got your gig. And I'll
exactly. Something about that rang to me that maybe that's something that happened in real life to the other guy, and maybe they felt like they had to keep it in there like that. But, I mean, nothing.
If that's the case, then I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Then it is realistic, I guess, for that one guy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely, if Chef is in real limited release right now, if you can find it, definitely check it out. I don't know if it's going to show up on VOD or not. I hope it does. But
it deserves a big audience. It's a very good movie.
It's rated R, but it's only rated R mainly for language. It's just, I mean, they drop a couple F-bombs here and there. Yeah.
Fucking MPAA given.
Yeah, it's stupid
ratings.
But yeah, it's really really top-notch movie. And then we just got back today from one more indie film that's out right now, and this was one that we had on our radar mainly because it's one of the final performances of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and that film is God's Pocket. And the film was co-written and directed by John Slattery of Mad Men, who plays Roger Sterling on Mad Men. Christina Hendricks, who plays Joan on Mad Men, she's in it as well. She plays Philip Seymour Hoffman's wife. It also has John Turturro in it, and
Richard Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins is in it as a famous reporter.
Right. Well, he's famous in this area.
Right,
He's locally famous.
Right, locally famous. And it takes place in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, in a neighborhood basically called God's Pocket, which is filled with a lot of working class people, some criminal types, and some shady...
Very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody type of area.
Right. And what happens is, the kickoff to the movie is that Christina Hendricks' son, who is Hoffman's stepson, he is killed, and then basically Christina Hendricks doesn't believe the story that the cops give her about what happened, and it unravels from there.
She asked Hoffman's character to look into what might have really happened.
Right. And he asks some people who go ask some other people.
Right. And this is another movie we just talked about where I didn't want to kind of trying to go in as cold as I could. And I thought this movie was going to be more thrillery.
Oh yeah.
Like,
you
know what I mean?
I had read an interview with Slattery, and the interviewer mentioned something about comedic elements, and he said, "Yeah, I'm glad that stuff's in there and stuff like that." And so was I.
Oh yeah,
it made it very unique.
But this wasn't a thriller by any means.
No,
it was a drama with some. I wasn't disappointed in this one.
Right. You know what? It reminded me of a little bit, just because. I mean, you know what happens to the kid from the get go. Right. Reminded me of Out of the Furnace.
Yeah.
When we went into Out of the Furnace, we thought this was going to be like a thriller whodunit, and
no, you already know.
We already know who did it. So
it's just following this,
right?
Just following the story and this little life of this man,
right? And what happens is that Hoffman basically is Christina Hendricks is inconsolable, and he is tasked with trying to get the funeral together and all this kind of stuff.
And he's a guy who's always making ends meet.
Right.
Always scraping stuff together to make ends meet, down on his luck, kind of just a normal Joe Schmo.
He's a ne'er-do-well.
That's a very good word.
Thank you.
Yes. So right, and all of a sudden he's got to try to find money for a funeral.
Right, and he's having problems with that, and with a lot of, sometimes there's serious results, and a lot of time it's humorous results. Yeah. And I mean, I was surprised at how much I laughed at this movie.
Me too.
And there's at least one scene of very graphic violence.
Yes.
Hoffman's not involved in that, but
as we like to say, that really escalated quickly.
Yeah, it did. And that scene reminded me a lot of Drive, where it's just going along, it's going along, all of a sudden, blah, and you're like, whoa!
Yeah.
But that was a great scene. That was like the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, it was. I'll go with that.
The Jenkins character is the one thing that just felt off to me in this movie. He was a little strange. He gets involved with the story. You kind of follow him a little bit beforehand.
Right. He's almost got his tangent.
Right, and then they intersect. Yeah. He's a drunk. He's been on the paper for over 20 years.
Right. And he's settled into his life of local celebrity.
Right. Yes, and he's coasting on that. Yeah. And he is beyond an alcoholic.
Right.
And basically what happens is that his paper puts him on this story that the kid might not have died the way that they were told or they reported, and so he goes to check it out, and his life intersects with Christina Hendricks.
Yeah. And we won't give away exactly what happened, right. But I understand where you're coming from, and I don't fully disagree with you, but I could see something like that happening just because of he might as well have been a fucking huge movie star.
Right.
Him, right.
So
he could get away with doing some weird shit.
Yeah.
And Hendricks' character was basically her mind's gone.
It's not just that. It's like
depressed.
It's like I think when he said stuff to her, I think she kind of like went with it. And she was like, oh, he's right,
Oh, but that's what I'm saying. I think to her, she was just on autopilot.
The reason why, and you don't know this because you don't watch Mad Men, but the reason why I was kind of like disappointed in that storyline also is because something similar happened to her on Mad Men.
Okay.
And Mad Men was much, much better.
Fair enough.
It was much, much better.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it was perfect or fully works.
Right.
I think I could see my vision of it. I think I could see it a little further than you, maybe. But I still thought the movie was pretty damn good.
Oh, it was great. I mean, it's a very. We say there's comedic elements in it, and there are, but it's a very, very dark comedy. It's
not like clowns and shit.
Right? Yeah, it's not like Anchorman or something like
that.
It's very.
In the fact of what's going on, there's situations that are just are funny.
Yeah, because Hoffman is just like down on his luck, and there were times in the movie where I was just like, kind of like, what's the point? But then you finally get to the end. And you understand that the people in this town, this neighborhood, they're born there, they live there, they die there. Hoffman comes in from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there a while.
He's been there a long while. But
he's still considered an outsider. That's the thing about this area.
And
if you weren't born there,
right,
you're an outsider no matter how long you've been
And that's
there.
kind of where
that plays into
it goes, yeah.
And I really like how they do that with Jenkins, too.
Yes.
Because Richard Jenkins, he's gained fame for this area for always writing about it and perceives himself as being a part of it.
Right.
And
he almost feels like he's one of them now.
Right. and then it becomes apparent that's not fully the case later on. And I really liked how they circled in that transition with Hoffman and Jenkins, and how they were not, no matter how much they might have thought they were from this area, they weren't. And I'm not sure Hoffman's character, he never really considered himself part of there. He was fully aware that he was not really fitting.
He was there for her. He was there for Christina Hendricks.
The movie works for me on way more levels than it disappoints.
Yes, totally.
And I would recommend it. I will say this: our friends we went and saw it with, one of them brought up, and I completely agree with. Slattery tried to go kind of Coen Brothers on this one.
A little bit, yeah.
In the way it focuses on this area and or persons and the time in their life, and it's, as far as the plot goes, it's almost minimalistic, right?
Right.
But what's going on inside there's a lot more than meets the eye.
It's a real slice of life story about this town and where they're from, and also it's a slice of life about Hoffman's character too. You know, it's really, it's not. Yeah, the plot is
from the very beginning. He really nails it.
Yes.
Or bangs it home.
You fucked that up. So. Yeah, it's also
see the movie, you'll get the joke.
It's also based on a novel by Peter Dexter, so it's I'm curious to read it to see how similar it is, because I remember I read an interview with like I said, I read an interview with Slattery, and he was very he had found this book I think before, and then it came back around that the rights were available and he got it. If you want to see God's Pocket, it is playing in limited release right now, but is also on video on demand. So definitely check your cable provider and see if you can get it, because it's a good watch. It's a good watch, if only just to watch it for Hoffman. Who's really really good.
I say this a lot, and I guess I should almost just have it. It's a disclaimer for any indie movie, right? It's niche. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's if you're a movie lover, you're gonna like this.
Yeah, and if you want to, the
performances are wonderful.
If you want to expand your your movie going,
if for nothing else, you want to see Hoffman in one of his final roles.
Yeah. And we always keep saying that because we're talking about this.
So many of them.
Because we're talking about this, and we're talking about
it's still one of his
a most wanted man. But we keep forgetting that he's got the Hunger Games 1 and 2. Yeah, he's got the Hunger Games
Mockingjay 1 and 2 coming out.
So we'll be seeing Hoffman at least through next year. Now we did laugh a lot at God's Pocket. There's several humorous scenes. A movie we did not laugh a lot at, and this is an early review, is Seth MacFarlane's A Million Ways to Die in the West. I have made no secret at all that I am not the biggest Seth MacFarlane fan.
Really? Huh.
But I will say this, except in very specific circumstances, say like Transformers, perhaps, when we go see Transformers 4. I don't go into a movie wanting to hate it, and I really wanted MacFarlane to win me over with this.
Right.
And this movie...
And he did.
No, he did not. This movie failed for me on like every level. It's basically you can tell everybody what's about.
You don't even want to talk about
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, so Million Ways to Die in the West. The title gives you the stick of the I can't say that word, shtick.
The shtick.
Yeah. Of the joke of the movie.
Right.
Which is kind of MacFarlane is living in the West. Out west in the pioneer days. However, he's almost
in the late 1800s,
but somehow he's almost aware of it not being. It's almost like he was transplanted from the future.
He's very self-aware.
Yeah, so he's self-aware,
painfully self-aware
of everything out there that is harmful.
And he's not the only one.
Yeah, so he plays this character that's kind of cowardly, if you will.
Yeah,
because everything he sees hurts people, kills people, even the most mundane things that are trivial things. And that's the running joke of the movie. He meets he's got a girlfriend at the beginning who dumps him, and the movie sets up him trying to win her back.
Right.
He meets another woman played by Charlize Theron, who tries to help him perform tasks to get her back. And inevitably, of course, they fall for each other.
The problem is
the writing is terrible?
No, I meant.
I don't know what you want me to say.
No, I meant with the plot. The problem is Charlize Theron, he doesn't know, is married.
Oh, right.
To the notorious gunslinger.
Yeah.
Played by.
So she's
Liam
run
Neeson.
off. She's run off from this gunslinger who.
Well, he sent her there.
Oh, that's right. They split up.
Right.
So they split up and they were going to meet back up later.
Right. Liam Neeson plays the gunslinger. He's off doing a job, and he sends his wife and his lackey.
Is his cousin? I don't know.
His cousin, probably.
Whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah, irrelevant. Played by who plays those guys?
He's that guy.
Yeah, they are that guy.
When I saw his name, I didn't recognize him, but I didn't recognize the name, but I've seen him in other movies.
So they go off to the town where McFarlane is there, and he meets her through. He kind of saves her, at least from harm,
right?
And so they kind of befriend each other. She's helping him win his love back, and of course that leads to blossoming love between the two of them. The movie for me, the problem with the movie for me is that love angle. I hated the story, that was the story.
Right.
For me, the movie should have stuck with the premise in the title, A Million Ways to Die in the West. If they had stuck with that funny gag and, tightened it up and probably made the movie shorter, it would have been a lot funnier for me. But the story that they chose to run with here doesn't work for me. And there are some really funny parts. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it is McFarlane. If you like McFarlane, I mean, for me, like Sarah Silverman's character, I thought she was very funny with Giovanni Ribisi, who they play friends of McFarlane.
Right.
There's at least one really really funny gag. Unfortunately, it's kind of spoiled in the final trailer for this movie.
Yeah. And that was another problem I had with the movie.
But yeah, and let's let you at least talk about your problems with the movie, because I know we differ in where we find fault in the movie.
Right.
Where to begin, he says. Where to begin.
Let's gut this son of a bitch. So, the way I saw this movie was Seth MacFarlane came up with something of, and I know he doesn't do stand-up, but he came up with something of like a stand-up bit about how horrible living in the West was, the Old West was. He then takes that thin premise by itself and stretches it over a modern-day romantic comedy. Because Charlize Theron is much like his character, where she's just like, I know, isn't this crazy? And then they stuff it into a Western.
Yeah.
And none of those...
It's almost like she was unaware of this stuff happening until Seth told her.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden she's like, you're right. And everyone would know all this stuff.
None of those three elements coalesce at all.
Right.
So it's competing interests in this movie. The other problem is, I mean, now, I didn't like, and we disagree on this a little bit because you watch Family Guy and you like Family Guy, but his whole self-awareness thing, and I mean, he doesn't, the whole movie is basically this very weak story. Like you said, the love story is very weak, and what he's doing in his life and all this and everything that's going on, coupled with of him just going, ha ha ha, look at that, isn't that crazy? The characters in Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles were very similar. They were very aware, like, Cleavon Little's Sheriff Bart. I mean, he is very aware of, like, he's very self-aware of what's going on.
Of where he's living and what's going on.
The difference is that Blazing Saddles was a satire, and it was funny. I mean, everything was funny in it. It was just like, it was just so much better written than this. It's like I said, it's literally just Seth MacFarlane pointing at things and saying, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Because his character doesn't really exist in the world, he stands like outside of it.
Right. He's almost standing on the sidelines.
Right.
Pointing at things.
Right. And it's like, like I said, that's a stand-up comedian's bit. That's not a movie. That's not how you make a movie.
I mean, the problem with me with that statement, though, is, and I can't rectify it because you're not wrong, is that if the movie had been more that and less of the stupid love story that they put in there, I would have thought it was a lot funnier.
And Ted, I mean, I had my problems with Ted, too. Because there was stuff that just didn't jive in that movie either. You're just like, wait, what? Come on.
Yeah, but it was still a tighter story that
it was,
better. See, here's the thing. I think the premise of this is better. the execution is
like
terrible.
if my whole thing is this: if they had just made it a funny Western,
yeah,
that would have worked for me. But instead, he has to make it like this commentary
wink,
thing,
wink, wink, nod,
and it's
nod,
like everybody knows. It's
doing.
like all the jokes were very. You could see them coming from a mile away. They were all very obvious. Everything was very, he's like, "Hey, look at that!" Like, and you're like, everything was like completely set up, and
they
whereas in like a million, not a million. Oh my god!
Oh, look what you did there.
Whereas in Blazing Saddles, the guy goes to Mongo, you can't park that horse there, and he punches the guy, and then he punches the horse. I mean, nobody sees that coming. It's fucking gold. It's hilarious, and and all the characters have their moments of self-awareness, and it just didn't work for me. Neil Patrick Harris, he's good in some parts.
I mean, they're I mean, the actors are okay. They're phoning it in.
Yeah,
every last one of them is really phoning it in. That like Neil Patrick Harris, he and everyone else they got this big dance and song and dance number in the middle of the movie, and I came out with the feeling that McFarlane and company thought this was going to be this runaway song that people were going to come out singing, and in the middle of the movie we're going to think that's funny. I didn't get that at all. I was just like, okay, is this over yet?
Yeah. And then Liam Neeson is the only actor in the entire movie that seems to know he's in a Western.
That's right.
That acts like he's in a Western.
He's playing the evil guy who never steps out of himself to...
And he's funny. He's funny with his bits. If you want to make him just like the comical villain in a Western, that's fine. He's great. But he plays the part. Everybody else, like you said, seemed like a time traveler who came from the future and said, "Now I live in the West." Isn't this crazy?
And see, I was okay with. I'm okay with, like, I know you had a problem with the fact that none of the dialects and even the costume maybe didn't quite seem to fit a true Old West. I was okay with that because I know this is McFarlane. That was, to me, part of the humor of this. At least in his eyes, right? So that didn't bother me, but everything else did.
Yeah. The other problem with this movie is that he spoils a lot of the best bits in the trailer. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil the one bit that would have brought down the house.
I won't say he does it. I mean, the studio does that.
Well,
I don't know how much.
True, but
I don't know how much say he has in.
I don't know. I mean, he is the director and he's the co-writer on it, so I don't know. So, like, there was one scene where Charlize Theron's teaching him how to shoot, and he shoots, and he gets closer, and he can't hit anything, and he finally just knocks the bottles off. That's a funny bit.
That's funny.
I've seen it 700 times and thing. Yeah. So it's like, it's not that, and I did laugh a little bit in this movie, but it's few and far between, and there's nothing very memorable in this movie. I feel like what they should have done, maybe with the trailers, is they should have done like what Anchorman does, like Ron Burgundy, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay do with Anchorman. Whereas they fill the trailer with a bunch of red herring jokes that aren't even in the movie. Right. And then when you come to the movie, everything's fresh. Yeah. But it's still just as funny or funnier. And speaking of not being memorable...
They probably didn't have that with this movie. That's the problem.
Maybe not. Because I guess Seth MacFarlane's word is gold. And I guess, fuck ad-libbing. So here's what I mean about not having anything that's memorable in this movie. When I went to see trailers for Anchorman 2... they had the RV scene. And they show pretty much the whole RV scene in the trailer. It got the biggest laugh of anything in the trailer. And then when we went to go see the movie, I laughed even harder. I was crying. I was laughing so hard at that scene. Yeah. In this movie, nothing. You were sitting next to me, and I did laugh. I did laugh in certain parts. But when I just went there, I'm just like, it's just not that funny. Yeah. He thinks it's funny. And it might have been good as like I said, like a stand-up bit where he goes, I mean, living in the West, blah 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 blah, and then you go, and then it's all in the delivery. But it's like this form of the delivery was not good. Yeah. It just is not a good movie.
You're right. I really like the premise. I think I would have chosen to do the story a lot differently.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. Like, you're right. We did laugh. It's not that we didn't laugh at all.
Right.
It's just it wasn't worth the $10+ you're going to spend. No.
Yeah. The soundtrack also was very John Williams pastiche.
Yeah.
especially towards the end.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Indiana Jones in there.
I mean, there was one part of the score that I swear to God they took it right out of Raiders, where it shows the Ark.
Yeah.
And the ominous music. I was like, that fucking sounds just like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't really take you out of the movie, but it's noticeable.
Right.
From the beginning of this movie, they set it up like it is going to be like a real Western.
Right.
Like a very epic type of.
Right.
And they you spend 5 minutes doing the credits over canyons, and you think which maybe that was part of the gag. I don't know.
I will say the one thing that is great about this movie, the cinematography is great.
Well,
it's a pretty movie.
Sure.
But the other thing is too is that with McFarlane, it's like I've said this about him a million times. I've watched him on TV, like in interviews and on Bill Maher and stuff like that, and he's a real smart guy. He's a smart guy. It's just that when he writes the comedy, he plays to the cheap seats all the time. He never elevates it. Where that, like, to me, that was the difference between this and Blazing Saddles. Yes, Blazing Saddles has like the fart joke, but it's so much smart wordplay and everything like that in that. And
I agree. I mean, hell, don't compare McFarlane to Brooks, please.
Well, no. The only reason why I do it is because of the genre of the movie.
No. Between those two, it's begging to be compared to that, right? But I'm just saying, Brooks, as a writer, he wrote. I say real comical. I don't. It's not that I don't find Seth MacFarlane. I don't think he's not a comedian. Brooks wrote smart comedy, and McFarlane has chosen the route of pandering to the audience.
He does,
and you know what? That's how he's choosing to make his living, and that's fine. I'm one of those people who, if someone says the word sellout to me, I'm like, what does that even fucking mean?
Right. To me, it's not even selling out. It's like he's just. Well, it's lazy.
But you're kind of saying it is.
No, I'm really not.
Because you say he's smart and can do better, but this is what he chooses to do.
To me, it's
the definition of selling out. Because he's doing it for the paycheck.
To me, it's more lazy. It's just lazy writing. Because I think he would have an audience, if he played up to his intelligence, and he doesn't. And I don't know. To me, it just wasn't very funny at all.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it was funnier than you did, but I mean by a degree,
right?
And that's probably because I like McFarlane's comedy a lot better than you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, skip this one, guys. Go see it. I mean, see it when it's free on fucking cable.
Yeah, it comes out May 30th. If you want to laugh in the theaters. Not that this movie was amazing either, but it was at least funny. Go see Neighbors. It was funnier than this.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that'll do it. What do we do? 5 movies? 5 movies.
Scream through those things.
Yep. Well, it's an hour. So, but yeah, so we're saying yes to Chef, yes to Locke, yes to God's Pocket. A lukewarm Godzilla.
If you must go see the monster fights, and then do it. You won't be disappointed in those, at least.
And we're definitely saying no on A Million Ways to Die in the West.
A Million Ways to Ruin This Movie.
Exactly. Our next episode is going to be an X-Men extravaganza.
I see what you did.
Thank you. As we invite author Matt King back to discuss X-Men Days of Future Past, which we will be seeing this week.
I'm kind of looking forward to that. I don't know. Swing.
Can't wait. And we'll be discussing all the other X-Men goodies as well. And so we'll see you next time.
Take care.